Hello student, today through this video I will teach you a very interesting chapter from history. The name of the chapter is The Peasant and the Raj. Student, before going to start about the chapter, I would like to tell you about the peasant. What is peasant? The term peasant can apply to any person engaged in agriculture, cattle raising, pastoralism, handicraft related to agriculture or related occupation in a rural areas. This include indigenous people working on the land. Peasant movement is a social movement involved with the agricultural policies which claim peasants' right. The economic policies of the British adversely affected the Indian peasants under the British government, protecting the landlords and moneylenders while they exploited the peasants. Now let's talk about land revenue policies started by the Britisher. Student, land revenue means it is a tax or revenue levied on agricultural production on land. It is either collected as a percentage of the share of a total crop or monetary value is fixed on the land to be paid by the farmer. It has been the major source of revenue for empire. Land revenue was the most important source of income of the colonial government. It is vital for Britishers to establish an efficient system of estimating and collecting land revenue from the peasant. So, the Britishers started various land revenue policies. Britishers also focused to cultivate crops which had greater commercial value, for example, indigo and tea in the earlier period and jute and tea in the later period of colonial rule. These crops were cultivated at the cost of food crops such as rice and wheat. Britishers forcefully started cultivating these crops through peasant, and for this reason many peasant groups rose in revolt against the colonial authorities and those among their follower citizens who were responsible for implementing colonial policy. Now let's talk about the colonial agrarian policies. The colonial agrarian policies refers to policies started by the Britishers for the agricultural sector in India. The commercialization of agriculture put great pressure on farmers to pay off and their values were ruined by the Britisher. The British were jealous of the Indian agricultural activities going on in the country. So they created some plans like permanent settlement, Royatwari settlement, Mahalwari settlement, and very important commercialization of agriculture and cultivation. Now student, here we need to understand what is the impact of colonial policies on Indian peasant. The effect of colonial agrarian policies on peasants and landlords were as follows. Number 1. The agrarian structure were feudal in nature. The feudal formed the surplus appropriating class and peasants the cultivating class. The land revenue extended from the peasants varied between one third to one fifth of the gross produce. The land revenue was payable to the king directly or through his intermediaries, who were the chief, the guarantees, the revenue farmer. Third, they maximize revenue collection to the extent possible. Fourth, the concept of private property was thought to be increase agricultural production and productivity, thereby ensuring revenue stability for government. Now, let's understand about permanent settlement. Permanent settlement was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793. It was an agreement between the British East India Company and the landlords of Bengal to settle the land revenue to be raised. Lord Cornwallis came to India as the Governor General. The permanent was of the most important settlement made by the Lord Cornwallis. It was agreed that landlords would have perpetual land hereditary rights over as long as they pay the taxes which was fixed by the Britisher. Firstly, this agreement was enacted in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. This was later followed in northern Madras Presidency and the British some parts of Banaras. This system was also called the Zamindari system. Now we are going to talk about the key features of permanent settlement. Number 1, landlords or zamindars were recognized as the owner of the land. Number 2, they were given hereditary rights of succession of the land under them. Number 3, the amount to be paid by the landlords was fixed. Number 4, the fixed amount was 1/10 portion of the revenue for the government and 1/10 of the jamindar. The jamindar also had to pay the tenant, that is patta, which described the areas of the land given to him and the rent he had to pay to the landlords. Number 5, because of the permanent nature of the settlement, there was some sense of security for everyone. Number 6, finally, the farmer also in level of patta were retained of their holding and they knew how much of rent they have to pay. Number 7, since the settlement was of a permanent in nature, the jamindar could have an interest in the improvement in the land, thereby improving the land revenue. Now we are going to deal with Mahalwari settlement. The Mahalwari system was introduced by Holt Mackenzie in 1822. It covered the state of Punjab, Awadh, Agra, parts of Orissa and Madhya Pradesh. The word Mahalwari is derived from Hindi word Mahal, which means house, district, neighborhood or quarters. This system consisted of landlords or lambadars claiming to represent entire villages or even group of villages. Along with the villages communities, the landlords were jointly responsible for the payment of the revenues, but there was individual responsibility too. The land included under this system consisted of all the lands of the villages, even the forest land, pasture, etc. Now we are going to deal with the features and the consequences of Mahalwari settlement. The village revenue was fixed so that there would not be an increase in revenue. Number 2, there was no role of middleman. Number 3, the system of tax collection was perfect as common it followed a proper system of land measurement and inspection. Now let's talk about our last settlement, that is Rohitwari settlement. Rohitwari settlement was introduced by Thomas Munro in 1820. Major areas of introduction include Madras, Bombay, part of Assam. In Rohitwari system, the ownership land were handed over to the peasant. British government collected the taxes directly from the peasant. Now, features of Rohitwari settlement. In this system, the peasants or the cultivators were regarded of the owner of the land. They had ownership right. Even they could sell their land and they can give their land to anyone. Number 2, the taxes were directly collected by the government from the peasant. Number 3, the rate were high and unlike in the permanent system, they were open being increased. Number 4, if they failed to pay the taxes, they were evicted by the government. Number 5, Rohits means peasants, cultivators. And number 6, there were no middleman in the Jamindari system. But since high taxes have to be paid only in cash, the problem of moneylenders came into the show. The further burdened the peasants with heavy interest. Now we are going to talk about commercialization of agriculture and cultivation. Commercialization of agriculture is phenomena where agriculture is governed by commercial consideration, either certain specialized crops begin to be grown not for consumption in village but for sale in international and the national market. Number 2, commercialization in agriculture began during the British rule. Number 3, the commercialization of Indian agriculture mostly started post 1813 when the industrialization revolution is started in England. Number 4, the commercialization of Indian agriculture took place not to feed the industries of India, but India was far behind in industrial development as compared to Britain, France, Belgium and many other European countries of 18th century. The commercialization of Indian agriculture was done primarily to feed the British industry, that it was taken up and achieved only in case those agricultural products which were either needed by the British industry or could fetch cash commercial grain to the British in the European or American market. For example, several efforts were made to increase the population or the production of the cotton in India to provide raw material and good quality to the cotton textile industry of Britain, which were growing fast after the Industrial Revolution in Britain. Jute was another product that received attention by the British East India Company because the jute made product got ready market in America and Europe. Indigo and more than that, tea and coffee plantation were encouraged in India because this could get commercial market in abroad. Other cash crops which were encouraged like jute, sugarcane, oilseed, opium, indigo, black pepper, tea, silk, etc. Now student, here is one question. What is the impact of commercialization of agriculture? First impact is increase in inequality. It was only the rich farmer who benefited and in turn increase in inequalities in income of the rural areas. Second, major benefits went to the planters, traders and moneylenders as well as the manufacturers who were provided with opportunity to make huge profit by getting the commercialization agricultural product. Number third, increased dependency on moneylender. Number fourth, decline in food production and frequent famine. Number fifth, impoverishment of Indian people. Number sixth, regional specialization of crop. Number seventh, linking agricultural sector to the world market. Number 8, adverse effect on self-sufficiency. Number 9th, effect on traditional agricultural industry. And the last one is no technological advancement. Commercialization did not give boost to agricultural production and did not impart organized form to the agricultural system in any way. Now we are going to deal with the niche system. The niche system of indigo cultivation, the planters produce indigo in land that he directly owned. He either bought the land or rented it from the other zamindars and produced indigo by directly employing hired labor. The problem with indigo cultivation is indigo could only be cultivated on fertile land, but these areas were densely populated and hence only a small plot of land could be acquired. This made it difficult to expand the areas under niche cultivation. A large population required a large number of market. Work at indigo plantation coincided with rice cultivation. Hence, mobilization of labor from indigo cultivation was a difficult task. Large scale niche cultivation also required many plug and bullocks. It was a big problem to the boer or a small piece of land and maintain the plug, since the plug and the bullock of the peasants were brought in rice cultivation, hence it was not possible to hire from them. The failure of the niche method led to its replacement by another method which came to be known as the Rowett method. So in this para, we read about the Rowett or the Rowett method of cultivation. Rowett cultivation is a type of cultivation where the peasants grew indigo on 25th percentage of land. The planters forced peasants to sign a contract, and sometimes the village headman regarding this. Student, even the planters, they have to face some of the problems. The planters gave them items like seed and tools, and these peasants had to look under the crop. Under the system, those who signed the contract got cash advance from the planters at low rate of interest to produce indigo, but the loan committed the Rowetts to cultivating indigo on at least 25% of the area under the land holding. The planters provided the seeds and the drill, while the cultivators prepared the soil, sown the seeds, and looked after the crop. Below are some of the challenges that peasants experience as a consequences of this method. First, the relationship between the farming peasants and the zamindars landlords were strained. The farmers were heavily exploited under this system as the new zamindars wanted to gain the optimum amount of profit in their limited amount of time. Next, the level of profit were very small for the farmer as the consequences which farmer were unwilling to pay taxes. Next, as the farmer were unable to pay wages, they quit farming and immigrated from the villages in search of another employment. Now we are going to come up our last topic, that is Indigo Revolt. The Indigo Rebellion took place in Bengal in 1859 to 1860 and was the revolt by the farmer against British planters who had forced them to grow indigo under the terms that were greatly unfavorable for the farmer. Causes of the revolt. Indigo cultivation started in Bengal in 1777. European planters enjoy a monopoly over indigo and they force Indian farmers to grow indigo by signing fraud deal with them. The cultivators were forced to grow indigo in place of food crop. In April 1860, all the farmers in the Barasat division of the district Noida and Pabna went on a strike and refused to grow indigo. The farmers were led by the Biswas brothers of Noida, Farooq Mandal of Malba, and Kedar Molla of Pabna. The revolt also received support from many zamindars, notably Ramnathan Maulik. The revolt was suppressed and many farmers were slaughtered by the government and some of the zamindars. The revolt was made immensely popular by its portrayal in the play Neel Darpan, that is, The Mirror of Indigo, by Dinbandhu Mitra, and other work of prose and poetry. This led to the revolt taking center stage in the political consciousness of Bengal and impacted many later movements in Bengal. Student, this is all about our today's class. So you have to do question and answer on your own in your practice copy. Thank you and have a nice day.